Thank you so much for joining us today on the Demystifying Money podcast. I'm joined by Kim Douglas. Kim sells Boston. She's a realtor at Coldwell Banker, and she's also the host of the Bold Like Her podcast. And I wanted to have her on today to talk about real estate. I feel like we are both in the Boston area, but even in other places that I've traveled to, people are always talking about real estate lately. It's on everybody's minds. People are talking about and I think it's just kind of changed a little bit with where people can live and work and what they want to do with their money and their life. So real estate seems to be one of those hot topics. And I wanted to have her on today to talk about it with me from her perspective of someone who's been at the top of her game for how long have you been in real estate, Kim?
14 years now.
14 years. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you've been through different markets,
I
different
have.
things. And
Yeah.
so this time has kind of been a little interesting going through pandemic
Yeah.
and a really interesting real estate market. So tell me, what are you seeing nowadays when it comes to real estate, when it comes to the conversations you're having?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having
Mhm.
me. Really appreciate
Awesome.
this. It's fun to join you. And as far as what's happening in the market, let's go back. Just let's
Mhm.
just say a couple of years, right? So a year or two ago, when the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden people start to figure out where they want to be, what work looks like for them now. They need more space. They can be wherever. So a lot of people left the city, they went to the suburbs, and interest rates were really low at the time. So low meaning sometimes in the twos, but usually in the threes. And so we saw a lot of scattering, right? So it was almost opposite of what we normally see. Everybody wants that place in the city, but it's a pied a terre, or a place where they live and work, and they go to work in the city. Now they can be wherever they want. And of course, they want to be able to stretch out a little bit and not feel like the place where they work is also the place where they have dinner and all this stuff, right?
Right.
You want to be able to leave that place that you call work in the work from home space, right?
Yes.
So that started to happen a lot. So the suburbs are still seeing a really strong growth in terms of how much money people are willing to spend to go out there and buy a home. So a lot of equity in those homes in the suburbs. It's coming back to the city once things started to level off. People are going back to work, and now they're coming back.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, interest rates start to go up a little bit, right? And that happened more quickly than we've ever seen.
Right.
Okay. So a jump from three to into the fives scared a lot of people.
Mhm.
And I mean, I can say, with working with some buyers who might have been kind of on the edge of, reaching the height of what they can spend, that means a lot. Now, if I had a buyer who had a pre-approval that was maybe 30 days old, and their pre-approval was,
Yeah.
3.5 or something, now we go to write an offer, and I said, well, you better check in with your
Right,
with
exactly.
your lender again, right?
Mhm.
It means a lot to your buying power. So that's what's happened. And now, this is a long answer to your question, but
Yes.
just trying to kind of paint a picture of what we've seen over the past couple of months. And it can do it because it's happened so quickly. All of a sudden the rates go up, and now people are getting a little nervous. They're backing off. Some people are now priced out. Maybe they
Yeah.
decide that they can't buy anymore because of their buying power. And things are starting to slow down just a little bit, which is great. It's a correction in the market, which we needed. I
Right.
can speak for my buyers, right? Who
Yeah.
were putting in offers against 15 other people, having to go 50, $100,000 or more over asking.
Yeah.
So this correction has been happening over the past, I would say, month or so. And so things are staying on the market a little bit longer, and I'm seeing price reductions happen on places as well.
Right. And that hasn't happened for a while. I think that
No.
it's definitely been something that, and I work with people on the personal finance side, looking at their budget and how much they can afford. And that change in interest rates has such a large impact that it's kind of defeating for somebody who's been
Yeah.
looking and been, losing out to all cash
Right.
offers or can't go so far over ask. So when you're working with, your clients on, how are they feeling
Oof.
with
Defeated
everything?
is a really great, great term, right? Because like you said, it's putting in the offers for that deadline after you went in to see it for all of 15 minutes, right? At the open house with all these other people around, and putting in offer after offer, waiving everything from inspections to your mortgage, which I will say in 14 years, this is the first time I've ever seen people start to waive mortgage contingencies.
Yeah.
It was just something, even inspections for me, I'm not a fan of waiving that. So to see all that happen, so you have to forward pace them.
Yeah.
See what is your goal ultimately. Let's take a look at it. And I know a lot of this, there's a big thing going around, this big phrase of like, marry the house, date the rate. Have you heard that?
I haven't. Explain that one to me.
Now, I like it, but what that basically says is, okay, you find a house that you want, the rates are a little bit higher. If you can get in there, do it, and then hopefully somewhere down the road you can then refi at a lower interest rate. Okay.
That I haven't heard that specific phrase used, but I have had a few people say, okay, well, I think that I might do, maybe we'll go at this rate and then hopefully it'll come down, which I understand that from seeing it. But also when I purchased my house about 10 years ago, I remember my parents being like, buy as much house as you can at a 4.5, because they couldn't even believe that that was the interest rate compared to when they had purchased a home in the 80s and it was around 18%.
Right, exactly. So it's all relative.
Yeah, it's so strange because I was like, this is the lowest it go. I did refinance when it went down, and I was very happy about that. But also, I wasn't ever thinking it would go down when I purchased my house.
Right. Well, that's a good mindset, right? So go in and make sure that you can afford that monthly nut, whatever that happens to be. I like to call it that, because you have to add in all the things, right? If you're in the city, there's a condo fee, there's insurance, principal, mortgage insurance for a lot of people. And all of that. So what does that look like for you? And are you comfortable with it? You don't want to put yourself in a place where you're uncomfortable, right?
Right, because then you're in this wonderful location, but you can't furnish it or do anything. Exactly. That's sad.
Let's just set up these beach chairs in the living room.
Right. Yeah, no. So I think, all of that, it's interesting. And I think that there's definitely, I'm glad to hear that there's a move back to the city, because I think that, we live outside of Boston. It's an amazing city. And I think that the suburbs, there's very few houses that I've seen on the market in my area and others. But also, I think that, there's life in the city and there's a lot of, fun things. So I was curious to see if there was some momentum back there where people did want to live close, even if they're not commuting to the office every day. If they just want to be in the cities.
Exactly where things are. And imagine a couple of years ago when not much was happening. Everything was closed. Restaurants and bars that have been around the city for years are gone. They had to close. How scary, right? How sad. But fortunately now we're back and things are happening. There's concerts, there's events happening, there's a lot of great stuff going on. So yes, it's back, and it was tough to see at the moment, but it is definitely coming back, and we can see the growth happening again.
Yeah. So when you work with clients, tell me, like, what are some of the things that you like them to have thought about or them to share with you, instead of just, right now people might be feeling a little desperate. I want to find something. I've been looking for so long. But how do you help temper that eagerness with them finding something that's actually right for them?
When rates were low, that was a great question, by the way. At that time, there was kind of this thought of, well, why don't I buy something now? So that, right? So if I want to live in the Back Bay or Charlestown or the South End or something like that, get something and make it your own, because there was so little inventory that the perfect house, it's like finding the perfect mate. Doesn't exist, right? You just got to work with it, right? So that's kind of like where we were. But now that we're starting to see more, it's so exciting to me to see people being able to have contingencies now. get an offer accepted that's under asking price, right? Having more to see when you go out there and not having to make a decision right away. So you don't have to go to the open house for that 15 minutes we talked about. Now you have an opportunity to take a second look, maybe bring the family back to take a look. So now we can calm it down. There's time, there's space, breathe a little bit. Let's talk about the things that are important to you. All
Right.
those things, is it a pet friendly condo association? Is it, the space, the work from home space, the work out from home space? Let's get that list going, and I like to have a meeting with my buyers, especially up front, to see, what is important to you. And then, what are your ultimate goals?
Yeah. It's
You're
so
willing to
important. I
do
think a
some
lot
work?
of times
Yeah.
people want to win or they want to like get
Yes.
something, or maybe, I mean, it hasn't been the best time for renters either, because I have seen a lot of rents increasing as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's a lot of, I think, from just the money aspect of it, a lot of frustration if you're in the small place and your rent just went up, or you're trying to work with your family around, like you mentioned, every sharing the kitchen table and having it be the office space. I had a guest on the podcast recently who was a feng shui expert, and she was talking about the energy when you're working in the middle of the dining room
Oh,
and
wow. I love
all of
that.
those things, which was interesting because I was thinking, yeah, people maybe just want to carve out a little bit of space for themselves, but
Yeah.
being able to not be too willing to settle or waive things,
Right.
I feel like could have a lot of financial benefits later. You mentioned mortgage contingencies and waiving inspection. Can you tell us a little bit more in detail about what that actually means for somebody who might say like, yeah, sure, that's fine, I don't care.
Yeah. So let's talk about
Yeah.
the inspection contingency
Hmm.
first of all. I would never suggest waiving this. Even if you put something in your offer, a clause that says, I'm going to do inspections for what we call informational purposes only. It still gives you an opportunity to go in, do the inspections, and look at things like structure, systems, how old are they? What is the life expectancy? These are the biggies. I've seen a couple of deals fall apart recently based on inspections. And it made me think to myself, wow, think about all the people over the last couple of years who've just simply waived them. Now, a lot of people would go in as well after they purchase and do an inspection, just for them to have an understanding of their house. And I think that's important too. What is this light switch for? What is this? The inspectors do a great job, and I have some great inspectors that I work with. I love that. I always learn from them, so I love going with my buyers to just learn a lot of things. But I would just never do that unless you can get in. You really want to be competitive. Maybe when you go to that open house, you bring an inspector with you, and they'll do not the real comprehensive one that they do when you hire them to go in just for that specific reason, but they'll do something just like we talked about, look at structure and look at systems, and they'll charge you a smaller fee to go in with you at that open house or something if you think it's going to sell fast.
I think that's such a valuable thing. My father inspected homes. He's an engineer, and so
Oh, cool.
that's how he made a living for a long time. And it was, interesting because he was, when he was very busy when I was very young, I think people expect him, and I think they expect me in some ways to just deliver bad news. Like, we're just going to tell you the things that you don't want to hear, and it's not that fun. When actually it's a lot of fun to tell people like, yes, this is great, or yes, you can afford this, or you could retire, or you can, and he would tell me about sometimes when we would tell people like, this is a great house, or like, yeah,
Yeah.
these are the things here, but this is small, or this is not
Right.
expensive. And so I think having that in the back of your mind, because I am not a home inspector. I'm not an expert in that. I have no idea what I'm looking at. It's a wall. It looks like a wall. I mean, I could see if there's like something looked like it was leaking or something like that. And that
Yeah.
is the extent. And there's a lot more that somebody who knows what they're looking for can see just quickly, just by
Right.
kind of, taking a peek outside, looking at different things.
Yeah.
But I think again, a lot of people are just kind of like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. So that's nice to think of, even just hiring somebody
To just come in on a scenario like
hourly
that.
rate, whatever that is, and just see if they
Yeah.
can help you out. Because I mean, I know they're busy people these days, but also if there's a lack of inventory, maybe you could catch somebody, see if they'll
Yeah.
come with you.
Yeah, and to your point, I've learned quite a bit, and I try to say the same thing. I'm a realtor, but I'm not an inspector.
Mhm.
I'm not a contractor.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will say, "Well, what do you think it's going to cost me to like knock this wall down?" And I said, I defer to the professionals. That's why
Yeah.
I have a great team of people, and I'm really very proud of the people that I have built as my part of my team
Mhm.
here. Contractors, inspectors, attorneys, lenders, all of them who help me and help my clients to get them to the finish line.
Yeah,
So having
absolutely.
somebody like that, I mean, I can look at certain things and I know what to look for
Yeah.
sometimes, but I'm definitely not that.
Mhm.
But I wanted to answer your question as well about waiving the
The mortgage.
mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing that started to happen this past year or so. And what it really means is you're still getting the mortgage, but you're not making your purchase contingent on it.
Okay.
So the only thing hanging in the balance there is the appraisal,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
So you're still on the hook to buy the place if you didn't get the mortgage, right? And
Okay.
so the other thing we had to start writing into offers, what we would see is people either waiving an appraisal contingency,
Okay.
meaning the house has to appraise for the purchase price. It just to
Right.
share that with people who may not understand that, but
Mhm.
yeah. So if you're buying a house for $500,000 and you're putting down, you know, uh, $20,000 or something. Okay, so literally the bank wants to know that it's covered for what
Yep.
it's
It's
got
worth
in
it.
the. Yeah, exactly. So they want it to appraise for at least the 480, right? So
Mhm.
you've got 20,000 in equity. So wanted to, so what we were finding is with people going way over asking price, now there's a problem of whether or not it's going to appraise. I have never seen anything not appraised in the past couple of years. Shocking. With all the people going way over asking was shocking to me.
Yeah.
But again, so you have these appraisal gaps that people would put in there too. So,
Mhm.
so a buyer might write in to their offer that they're willing to cover a certain amount
Yeah.
of the gap. So if you bought
Mhm.
for 500, it appraises for 480, and they're like, okay, we'll put in an extra 20,000 if it doesn't appraise for that.
Yeah.
That's how desperate people have been
Mhm.
to buy. It is
Yeah.
crazy. That's why I say I'm so glad to see that things are now leveling off. I
Yeah.
love my sellers. I love working with them, and I love to be able to get them as much as I possibly can, but let's tone it down a little bit. It's
Right.
a little crazy.
Yeah, because I think, yeah, when people are doing that and then they have to come up with more cash,
Yeah.
then they're looking at their savings, they're looking at their retirement accounts, they're looking at all these other accounts to try to make up the difference. Where
Yeah.
if you have the cash and say you're $10,000 off and you know that you've
Yeah.
got it, okay, go ahead and do it. But a lot
Right.
of times it's substantially higher. And there's certainly been houses that I've seen that I remember looking at or driving past when I was looking for a house 10 years ago, where that's not a $500,000 house in my head.
Right. But
But
it's
it
selling for that.
100% is right now, which makes
Yeah.
me a little, but I mean, that's good to see, at least if it's appraising for that because of what's going on around it in the market, then that's good to see, because it's and that house could be a $500,000 house from now on and eventually
Right.
be $1 million house. I
Moving
don't know.
forward. Yeah.
It's just interesting to see that, when it depends, I guess, on where you're anchoring those prices at. And a lot of
Yeah.
people that are new to this market think that it only goes up. And the same with the stock market. People who have only been investing, since, maybe the early 2010s, they've only seen it go up. And so when
Hmm.
it starts to come down, we're seeing it as a correction and normal, and they're seeing it as like, what is going on here? This
Oh my
isn't
God. Pull
supposed to
everything out.
happen.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I should stop investing. Where we're like, no, you should invest more, or you're buying now, and this is a good thing for you. So it's so interesting to see how, that personal finance, and I think people are getting very educated, which is a good thing, on credit scores, on
Yeah.
interest rates, on inflation and buying power, and these things that maybe they've heard of, but now when you're actually trying to make these transactions, it's
Hmm.
you really can get an education on it pretty quickly. I did see
Agreed.
an article that I wanted to discuss with you. I saw it, I think it was on CNBC, and it was about homeowners, and it said that 70% have at least one regret. 70% of recent homeowners have one regret, which all of the things we're talking about makes me think like, well, yes, of course they do. And the top one was underestimating the cost of owning a home. So, from your perspective, what do you want your buyers to understand? Or maybe people who are selling and deciding to rent or something like that. What is the difference really between being a homeowner financially and being a renter?
Good question. There are benefits, right? Of course, because the equity that you're building, right? Tax write-offs, things like that. Those are all great. Building equity, being able to do whatever you want in your place and not have to ask somebody, make it your own when you have it. I understand that some people might think, oh, I shouldn't have waived that inspection. That's a regret, right? Or I feel like I paid too much for my place. Like, I would never want any of my buyers to feel that way. You shouldn't be doing that if that's what you're doing to get the place to begin with, right? But the cost of owning a home, you should have a little fund set aside. Things happen. So now you can't call the landlord when the hot water heater goes or something. You should always have a fund for the what ifs, right? Those things do happen. You have to have maintenance. You have to stay in front of things. That's one of my big takeaways too. Not only the systems of the house, the roof and the windows and the systems, but also keeping it updated. Because a lot of times people go to sell and now they haven't done anything to it in years. And you probably know everybody's watching HGTV today, right? And this is what they
Definitely.
expect when they walk into a place. And
Mhm.
if it's not that, it's just not as appealing to people,
Right.
unless you're that smaller percent who's like, well, I can go in there and do whatever I want.
Right.
I'll update the kitchen, but most people want to walk in and have that. So have that
Yeah,
fund set aside for those things that will go wrong. The AC is going to blow when it's 100 degrees
absolutely.
when you need it.
Yep.
And then continue to do, if you do one project a year, even if it's a small one, that is going to keep your place updated. And guess what? You get to enjoy it while you're in there.
Mhm.
And then, should you have to sell, you may think you're going to stay somewhere for 10, 15 years, and something happens in life that changes that. So now you're kind of ahead of the curve because you've been keeping things updated and you don't have an HVAC system that is, on its last leg, or a roof that's about to go, or, you haven't updated it all.
No, and that's smart because I think when you go to sell in a couple of years, people might not be waiving inspections anymore. They might not be walking
Exactly.
in and saying, "Oh, it's clean
Exactly.
enough. I'll take it." And so
Yeah.
that's really smart. And that's something too when I talk with people because, it's important to have an emergency fund for those things that are just unexpected. But if you own a home, you can expect those things. They might not all happen in the same year, but it might be, if you think about 10% of what your home's value is, if you have kind of that aside, to do some updates, bigger projects, and just kind of know that it's there. It's not an emergency if you can almost guarantee that your house is going to
Yeah.
require maintenance, same as your car, all of those things that you know
Exactly.
that. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of people that drain their savings account to get there, they can't do those
Right.
updates and fixes, which could lead to a lot of the remorse that we're seeing and that people have. And then I saw 38% wished that they spent more time looking. And I think that that's probably comes from the wish list of like, like you said, settling for Mr. Right now instead of Mr. Right. And then,
Right. During that, that really heated time when everybody was just, like I said, going in, and you can feel that energy when
oh
you
yeah,
go in there, and there's just so many people buzzing around. And when you're that person or that couple that, has put in offers on things and they just keep losing, what ends up happening? That next one, they throw it all at the wall, right? So they can win.
yeah. No, and I think I remember the first place I put an offer on, it was a lower offer, and it was the perfect house in the wrong town. And they came back and they wanted, they said no, go up, and we didn't. And I'm really glad we didn't because after they came back to start negotiating, it wasn't the right location.
Mhm.
It would have been okay. It would have been nice enough. Now they ended up taking and accepting an offer that was lower than mine because I was still stalking it online afterwards. But I
That's so
ended up
funny.
finding a house in the town that I wanted, right in the neighborhood I wanted. I didn't have children yet, but was like, maybe it should be in a nice school district just in case. And it was, I had a little time. I had time to kind of think things through and
Yeah.
yeah, go back a few times and go at night and then be like, oh, I don't like it at night, or I do like it. This is really cute, or, and so
That's so
having
smart of you.
time, yeah, time is it's so important when you're making big financial decisions, but a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
in some scenarios you just might not have it. So if you had any tips for people that maybe they have the money together and they know what they want to do, what would you suggest that they do if they're going to have to come to a decision pretty quickly? Like, what are some of the things that they should, really focus on, or kind of, do you tell people to trust their gut, or is our guts usually wrong?
No, no, I say that, but first of all, we have to have everything ready to go. And I have to set the tone for people when we're in that type of market. Look, if you don't have the stomach for this, now it's much better. But during that time, so if you don't, this might not be the time for you to buy, because this is how it's going to go. You're going to see it. They're going to want offers on Monday, if not before. Sometimes they weren't even setting a time frame to have offers due, and they were just coming in and they'd look at them as they come. So maybe it went on the market on Thursday. By Thursday night, it was under contract. So first of all, I always say to people, you see something that you like, make sure you tell me right away. Not
Definitely don't keep it
not
to
like, oh, we
yourself.
saw this came on yesterday and they're having an open house Saturday. Well, guess what? That open house was canceled.
Yeah.
It's under contract. So
Oh,
please send it to me right away. Have all your ducks in a row too. So we go over the process. They already know what's going to be expected, right?
mhm.
Earnest money deposit, your pre-approvals in hand, you got to write a check, all this. So we have it all ready to go. So knowing all of those pieces, how the process is going to work, so you don't feel like
Yeah.
whiplash from this.
Hmm.
So setting that tone and letting them know it's not me. I'm not going to push you, but I'm going to tell you, if you want to win, I can help you.
Yeah. No, it's kind of like a fire drill. Like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna do it. And like, because then when it happens, you're gonna panic and it's gonna be crazy, and you wanna not be crazy. So that's definitely good advice to make sure that you have everything. And it sounds like you take really good care of your buyers and sellers.
Thank you.
I
It's
wanted
important.
to I wanted to ask about, because I'm working with a lot of people who maybe are looking at what they do for a living and thinking this isn't it for me. I'm not happy, or I don't want to go back into an office. I don't want to be on a train. I don't want to work a 9 to 5. And so they'll usually, of all the things that they throw out, they never throw out financial advisor for some reason. Even if they're wonderful with like their budgets and numbers and could be amazing financial advisors, for some reason there's a lot of barriers for people thinking that that would be a career for them. But I hear real estate agent all the time. And it could be because they watch Selling Sunset and everybody is really, they look like they have these amazing lives. I mean, they're in fancy houses. They look good, they're friendly, they meet clients who are just cool, and it
Yeah.
seems like a dream job. It really does. And I get that. But also I have clients who are real estate agents, and it's, again, like, you can always work with an inconsistent income. But I think people might underestimate how quickly you go from, passing a test to the glamorous life. So tell me a
Right.
little bit about your experience. Like, first of all, like, how did you know this was the right career? Like, what are some of the like characteristics that people need to have to do well in this career? And
Yeah.
then kind of like, what's some of your advice for people who might be considering it, just from your perspective of having been through a couple different types of markets?
Yeah. Thank you. It's very sexy, right? It's very sexy. Not.
Way sexier than being an investment advisor. I will tell you that. I'll admit
I have
that.
seen quite a bit. I have seen quite a bit. I mean, someone asked me the other day about the lowest price house I've ever sold, and I literally think it might have been $49,000.
Oh, wow.
It's like it was back in Pennsylvania, and it was a foreclosure or something like that. So crazy, but yes, you're so right. You go from taking these classes and learning like how many square feet are in like a
Mhm.
mile or
Yeah.
yeah, an
Lots of
acre.
information I'm sure you use every day.
Yeah. So all of these things, it's just like school, a lot of the
Oh, yeah.
stuff that, you don't really put into use,
Mhm.
but what you do is there's a lot of paperwork, right? So it's very, litigious. There's a lot of like legal stuff that, you have to do. That's scary to
Mhm.
have really like you get your license and you can go out. And if you don't have a great mentor or a company that's going to really teach you how to do these things and support you through those first, few transactions, it's very scary and you can get yourself in some
Yeah,
trouble.
absolutely.
Fortunately, here in Massachusetts, now I started my career in Pennsylvania where we did not use attorneys, but here we do. And I'm so glad for
Mhm.
it, right? So I get them past that first step, right? The offer being accepted. And then we go to what's called the purchase and sale agreement, which is drafted by attorneys. And that's where it's like, 11,
Mhm.
12 pages or something like that. So thank goodness for that. But just getting back to your question on this, like the type of personality or person that, could do well in this, likes to work with people, is a self-starter,
Yeah.
entrepreneurial type spirit, right? Who can do things and be organized. The financial piece, when I first got in, I had to learn how to put money aside from each transaction that I did for taxes, for my business, back into the business, because nobody's, it's your business.
Yeah.
So your company hopefully is going to support you in a lot of ways, and hopefully financially as well with some things, but you have to do it yourself. You're running your own business, so you have to be pretty structured too. I'm the kind of girl who likes to go to the office
Mhm.
a lot. I feel like I work better there, and it helps me to keep
Yeah.
organized. Yeah, and I have a coach that is also really good, and keeps me on the ball, keeps me honest, right? And she has me send her things each week about what I'm doing. Am I on track for my goals for the year? That's another thing, right? If you're not, watching out for yourself and the things that you are setting goals for yourself, no one else is really going to do that for you.
Yeah.
And your boss is that person in the mirror right there, right?
Mhm.
That's it. The coach part of it as well is I really latched onto that very early on in my career. And I'm with the same woman who was my coach when I first got into the
That's
business.
fantastic.
Yeah. And
Pretty cool.
she helps me stay consistent through any type of market.
Mhm.
And so you had mentioned early on, like I've been through a lot of different types of
Yes.
markets, right? So
Yes.
when I started out, there was a ton of inventory. And if you didn't like this house, you looked at
Go with
12 others on the,
Mhm.
on the block,
Yeah.
right? And I learned by going to and being proactive and going after the expired listings, the for sale by owners. And that's how I started my business. So I know how to do that. And like, so that was a buyer's market. And then when
Yeah.
it shifted to sellers, you have to be able to bob and weave, right?
Mhm. Yeah, you
Through
have to
all the
adapt.
different, yeah.
Sure.
I think I gave you a little bit
No,
of
those are
what you were
it's
looking
it's
for
good though.
there.
Yeah, because I think that that's something that's important. You mentioned a few things like being a self-starter. It is very different to go from getting a paycheck and, being able to tell your boss you're sick and taking a day and still getting paid for it, than being an entrepreneur or being
Right.
really only accountable to yourself. And also, you do a very good job of putting yourself out there. I found you. I know what you do. I kind of knew we would get along because
Yeah.
I looked you up and saw your stuff, and no one is telling you to do that. No one is telling you not to
No.
post, maybe your coach. And that's where
Yeah.
a coach can be super helpful because I know I work with a coach too, even
Yeah.
though I know how to manage money and my budget and the business finances is something that I help people with. However, I still have a human brain. and I still
Yeah.
have things that I say I want to do on Monday, and then it gets to be Thursday, and I don't feel like doing them anymore, and no one's going to stop me from going home. And so I think that's where figuring out a way to hold yourself accountable. If you're really good at it yourself, maybe you create lists and you make sure you check in to see if it's done. If you're not, that's where the coaches come in, or somebody
Yeah.
to kind of be there to support you on those times when maybe you would go to your boss or a friend at work or something, and they're just not there anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So
Hold you accountable. And a
yeah,
lot's
it's
changed
definitely a
too.
good thing. And having that budget set up so you know how much it costs to be you on a
Mhm.
normal month. And so when the months are good, you cover that and put some
Yeah.
away. And then when months are bad, you know you can get through it, because that's why I think 9 out of 10 don't make it.
Right.
They,
Couple of other things to your
yeah.
point there is that you need to know there's a ramp up time.
Mhm.
You're
Oh, yeah.
not going to just start blowing the doors off of real estate the second that you get in,
Right.
unless maybe you have a family member and you can join their team or
Mhm.
something. But I'm on my own. I always have been. I've paired with people here and there, but never, I've just kind of stayed on my own. So know that there's ramp up time. I stayed in radio for a while doing a little bit of that so I could have another income
Mhm.
when I got started in real estate until I got to the point where then I could stop doing that. So knowing that that's going to happen, and then also doing your best to be consistent. My coach teaches me, this is one of the things I've learned from the beginning, is you have to open the doors to your store basically every
Mhm.
day, right? And if you're not reaching out to people and talking with, past clients, your center of influence, creating new leads, then you're not opening the doors.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I know that I have to do every day, and I hold myself accountable for that, having a certain number of conversations every single day. That's something that I also do.
I think that's great. It's so smart. And I know a lot of people that I work with that are so good at what they do, or they're so educated and they're very, they care a lot about their clients and customers. It's unfortunately, people have to know how to find you or what you do, and that you actually are looking for, for clients, or that you're in business. So
Yeah,
that's really smart. The thought of just having to make sure that people know that the doors are open and this is how we
yeah,
work together and make it easy. I can't tell you how many people are like, it's very, if they make it hard to pay you or they make it hard to find you,
right.
those are some of the
Yeah,
first things that we attack when I'm looking at, their income, like just to make sure that they're not making it any harder. And maybe there are fears or things that they don't want to be too busy, or they're a little, insecure, that whole imposter syndrome thing. And I think that
yeah,
the only way to really get through that is to start working
yeah.
and making progress or taking action, even if it's crossing a couple things off your list a week.
You and I
So,
talked about that too, and just about finding somebody. And
mhm.
you and I are both like pretty active on social
Yep.
media, and that has taken on a whole new role for not just real estate and the finance
Mhm.
world, right? Every business,
Everything.
you have to
Yeah.
be there. I mean, I do know people in many businesses that don't do it at all, really, and that's great. But I just feel like it's another way to like find someone. You were
Yeah.
found to go on TV and
Mhm.
talk about the
Yeah.
lottery. I was found by, doing the podcast, and you and
Yeah.
I connected this way. I just think letting people know who you are and how you work and what your personality is, like kind of let that down a little
Yeah.
bit. With my posts, I do more than just like, here's the latest house I sold, or this is
Mhm.
my new listing. Instead, I do those, but I also add in a little personality, right?
Yeah, I think that's so, I think it's important. I think it's easy. I mean, it's inexpensive marketing.
Right.
I mean, you
Yeah,
really
it's
can
free.
do it. Even if you're starting out with a very small budget for your business, if you can be out there and be authentic and talk about what you do and how you look at things, I think people want to see that. And I think they want to get to know people before they decide to work with them. And I think that that could give newer people an advantage over somebody who's maybe more established and doesn't want to do that,
Right.
because that might not be the person that they find first, or maybe the
Yeah.
one that they connect with and decide they want to work with just because they have a website and they were able to
Yeah,
find it. So
exactly. A
very
website.
smart.
Yeah. Almost
Website should be
feels,
just like number one, like get
yeah,
that down.
yeah.
But you
TikTok
know
is number two. No, I'm
yeah,
kidding.
no, people are searching TikTok like faster than Google now, I've heard. And
I
so
know.
it kind of makes me nervous with some of the financial advice out there, but also I'm like, okay, maybe that would be the next place to go, because woo, there's like, people are looking for information and they're watching videos and they're listening. And so, I think I think it's important for people to either embrace it or figure out how it can work for you. If you're somebody who's more introverted and shy, maybe it's networking groups where you get to have a smaller chat with somebody in person, and that can help you grow too if you're not ready
Yeah.
to go live.
Yeah. What a great
But
point. Yeah.
it's
You kind of
so
have to
important.
find what works best for you.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think being completely radio silent, it's not, it's, I mean, that's just businesses need that oxygen. I think they need something there to grow. But I have worked with some people that are like, oh, I've never, I've talked to some people that would be like, I'd love to go on a podcast. And like, I didn't know that until I started like, having going to a lunch or dinner with, groups to see, because they're like, oh, I could never do that, but maybe I could. And so trying to figure out your way to get the message out there, connect with people, I think is so important. If you want to be in real estate and you're like, I kind of want to just work from home always, and it's not gonna work, right? That's not gonna work for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. The virtual tours aren't happening as much
Yeah,
anymore.
no, I
Yeah.
think people are gonna want to get back in there and they're gonna want to see you and talk to you, because you're helping with people, and I help people too with some of the most stressful decisions that they make in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think it's so important to find the right fit for you. How can people find you if if they've listened to you and they're in the market? I know some of my clients who, are in Charlestown and that area that are
Yeah.
just, always thinking about that dream place if it ever works out. How can people locate you?
Sure. I work in Charles. That's where I live and
Mhm.
work, but I'm all over Boston as well. But Kim Sells Boston is my Instagram and then also my website. So those are the best place to reach out and
Yeah.
kind of find out a little bit more and, see what I'm doing.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so
Thank
much
you.
for joining me today. If you're looking to see how much house you can afford, head over to mistylynch.com. You can find ways to reach me. We definitely should do some financial planning beforehand to make sure that we don't make any big mistakes that we can't go back on, and make sure that you can get that perfect home for you someday, or sell that home and decide to be a digital, whatever you want to do with your life. We can figure out a way to do it. So
Be an
head over to
influencer.
Yes. Head over there, find out some more information. And it was so great to meet you, Kim. I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you next time.